I'm pleased to call to order the 143rd meeting of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, once again at the Boston Convention Center on January 22nd at about 10:30. We are doing, as we sometimes do, two parallel things today. We're having our regular meeting, good morning, and we are also holding hearings where there's an opportunity for public comment on 4 sets of regulations that have been published and in the public domain for a period of time. There is a sign-up sheet for people to comment. We're going to start to register to comment. Comments will be limited to having to do with the topic matter of the regulations. And we will, if there are speakers signed up now, we will invite them to speak. We will then hold the hearing open for about an hour, so that if people come in late, they have an opportunity. Just be sure to use the sign-up sheet and you will speak. We are honored today to have as our first speaker about our regulations the newly sworn-in Attorney General of Massachusetts, General Maura Healey, and we are pleased to have you here and welcome you to the podium.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, General.
My name is Maura Healey. Yesterday I was sworn in as the Massachusetts Attorney General. The Attorney General is the people's lawyer, and it is an honor to be here today. As a person charged with enforcing the gaming law on behalf of the public, I intend to make gaming enforcement a priority for my administration. I'm pleased to be here today, as I say, to share a few thoughts with you, and I look forward to working together. Expanded gaming, as we know, presents unique challenges, and we know that the Plainville Slots Parlor is scheduled to open in just a matter of months. Casinos are coming to Massachusetts just as the gaming industry is experiencing seismic shifts on the East Coast. The decline of casinos in Atlantic City and struggles in neighboring states requires us to tread carefully and pay close attention on behalf of the public. Our office is committed to using the full civil and criminal authority to ensure that the gaming industry is held to the many financial and legal commitments it has made to our state, host and neighboring communities, and to the people of Massachusetts. Over the past years, advocates for expanded gaming and applicants for casino licenses in Massachusetts have made significant commitments to the people of Massachusetts, including promising to create jobs and hiring local residents and vendors. In addition, casino operators have promised host and surrounding communities that they will address public safety concerns, infrastructure, and environmental impacts. And they've also promised, importantly, to address problem gambling. Our office will make sure that casinos abide by their commitments and follow the law. We will ensure that consumers are protected from unfair and deceptive practices, that casino employees are treated fairly, and that all processes are open and transparent. This is important so that public protections are never left to chance. We believe that an active regulatory and enforcement approach is good for the public and for this new industry, which benefits from clear rules of the road. In the coming days, my office will be submitting to you a detailed letter recommending important enforcement and consumer protection-related changes to the proposed regulations, which I believe are critical to protecting casino patrons and the public at large. Today, I'll just briefly highlight a few of the consumer protection issues that will be raised in our letter, and which I hope the Commission will consider and address. The first has to do with variances. We believe that no casino should be allowed to deviate from important consumer protection regulations, and that any other variances should be sought subject to a full and transparent public process. With regard to ATM machines, I spoke to this a couple of weeks ago. I believe and urge you to explore this issue through a separate standalone public process. I urge you to consider a wide range of protections on this issue, including requiring that cash machines be placed certain distances from casino floors, putting caps on withdrawals, and also prohibiting credit card cash advances on ATMs. With regard to credit extension, another important issue, The Attorney General's office has advocated for the Commission to adopt strong credit extension regulations. We believe that casinos should be required to conduct rigorous analysis of any patron's ability to repay their credit. Anyone who cannot afford to sustain the losses shouldn't be extended the credit. Finally, my administration will commit significant resources to our Gaming Enforcement Division to investigate and prosecute any attempts by organized crime to infiltrate the gaming industry. The Commission deserves credit for collaborating with the Attorney General's office and referring suspected criminal behavior to the Attorney General's office and the Gaming Enforcement Division for further investigation and prosecution. This partnership is important going forward. I welcome this partnership, and it's indeed critical to ensuring that the industry operates with integrity. Going forward, I intend to thoroughly investigate any allegations of organized crime, corruption, money laundering, human trafficking, and other criminal activity relating to the casino industry in Massachusetts. In this new era, it is important that the public feel confident in the process and feel confident that no casinos will be brought online before meeting commitments and following the law. I have a responsibility to the public to ensure gaming industry accountability, and I have made this, as I say, a priority for my administration. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I look forward to working together in the days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Anybody, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome the new Attorney General. Thank you for coming, and I think you'll see as you serve and you learn more that many of the things you talked about are things that we believe are very, very important. We spent a lot of time talking about them, debating them. Certainly all of the decisions have not been made yet, and but I think you'll see that we really do take these issues seriously, and we certainly welcome your partnership when it comes to proper enforcement.
I'd echo those sentiments and echo the words of welcome. Delighted that you could take time from your schedule to be with us today. But I think from what I hear you say that we are exactly aligned on major outcomes. I think that there is a strong desire to protect the consumers. I think we have and are working on one of the most robust compulsive gambling prevention regimes in the country. Indeed, today's agenda is filled with those things. And much of what we've done has come through this partnership that we've had with the Attorney General's office and the fine and thoughtful people who are there. So I look forward very much to continuing that process, to your help, your assistance, your insights, and your guidance. It can only improve the overall process.
Well, I thank you, Commissioner McHugh and Commissioner Cameron, for those words. I certainly look forward to the Attorney General's office under my administration continuing to be there to work in partnership and to ensure that the public interest is protected and that there is fairness in the process and that we are considering the various needs of the public interest. So I look forward to continuing that effort. I appreciate the work that you all are doing, and I thank you for your time today.
I would simply add that your staff, or General Coakley's staff, and many of whom are your staff, have been terrific in help with us, and I echo the partnership. I appreciate your coming down your first full day of office. I'm sure we won't agree all the time. You will feel free to criticize or to make constructive suggestions when you disagree. That's part of the arrangement. But for the most part, we completely buy this partnership notion. We do share the objectives, and we will do everything in our power to be your partners in making this law, as we've said repeatedly, absolutely reduced to the barest minimum possible any unintended negative consequences. That's our job too.
Very good.
Thanks very much for coming.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we have one other person signed up for his 4 minutes of testimony on our regulations, Mr. Graham Lewis. Welcome. Have a seat. You're welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to come here today and speak. I would like to speak about the difference between a fraudulent application and an incomplete application. This year, many people have been fined and they have been told that their
So you're talking about applications for what?
application for an occupational license
Okay.
to race horses in this state. Many people have been preconditioned by the previous racing commission by their laws, stating that after several years that application is satisfactory. This year, many applications have been found to be fraudulent, and a fine has been given. This information has been passed on to the United States Trotting Association. And
Mr.
when-
Lewis,
Yes, ma'am.
you have a pending matter before this commission, correct, having to do with your application?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think it's inappropriate for us to hear about that at this time. That matter is pending.
Ma'am, I'm not talking about my own application. I'm talking about other
You-
people.
You know, this is an opportunity to talk about regulations, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So that there is not an issue in our regulations that speaks to this matter.
Okay. Therefore, I have nothing else to say.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you. And of course, you're welcome to submit any other comments at any time online in our comment box. Anybody else? Janice? Okay, we will suspend the hearing on the regs. If anybody else comes, they will be welcome to speak. We'll hold it open for about an hour. Meanwhile, we will move on to other items on the agenda, starting with the approval of minutes. Commissioner McHugh.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the minutes are in the book, the minutes, that is, of the January 8th meeting, and I'd move their approval in the form they appear in the book, with the usual reservation of the power to correct typographical and other mechanical errors.
Just, just a quick note, and again, I apologize, I was late for the January 8th meeting, and I think under the first motion, it says I was absent, but later on in the minutes, it records that I initiated a motion, so I don't know if we need to put in some time sequence of when I joined the meeting.
I think you got there before we started, didn't we?
I think you'd already done maybe minutes approval and Director Day's presentation before I arrived.
Okay.
All right, we'll go back, Commissioner, and make sure that the times are in there. I think that's right. You did come in just after we'd started, so we'll fix that.
Anything else?
No, second with that correction?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. There was one other thing I meant to mention when Attorney General Healy was here. Treasurer, Treasurer General Deborah Goldberg was also sworn in yesterday and also made casino a major priority of her administration, particularly with respect to protecting the lottery revenues from being poached by the casino revenues. This was something that the legislature paid a great deal of attention to when the law was first passed. One of our principal directives in our plan, in our mandate is to protect and enhance, where possible, lottery revenues. Everybody knows that about $1 billion a year goes to local aid from lottery revenues, and we take that mandate very seriously. We've been working very closely with the lottery. All of our applicants and obviously, therefore, also our licensees had to work out collaborative agreements with the lottery, either before or during the time they're preparing their operations. We've worked very closely with Beth Bresnahan, the executive director of the lottery, who has been tremendously collaborative, and her agency has worked closely with our licensees. And we are more than open to Treasurer Goldberg's further suggestions about what else can be done, and we welcome that, since that is a key part of our own mandate. I just want to point out another thing that the legislature did. They have directed that a portion of the licensing fees, the one-time licensing fees, a total of $195 million, that a portion of that $195 million go directly to local aid. That's about $8.5 million that's already on its way to local aid from the licensing fees. And then once the casinos begin to operate, 20% of the gross gaming revenue of the casinos will be dedicated to to our share of the tax revenue. 20% of the tax revenue on the casinos will be dedicated to local aid. With the estimated revenues that would occur from the three bodies that have been licensed to date, Plainville, Springfield, and Boston, that would be about $56 to $60 million a year, which would be about 6%. So if there were a 6% drop in lottery revenues as a result of the casinos, that would be offset dollar for dollar with money that's coming out of the gross gaming revenues. Again, we didn't do that. That was the legislature's commitment to protecting the lottery. Frankly, none of us knows exactly what happens when you introduce casino gambling to a jurisdiction that already has so much lottery gambling. Most of you know we have way, way, way more lottery gambling per capita in Massachusetts than in any other jurisdiction, so it's hard to predict exactly what will happen. But I only make these comments because we are very supportive of Treasurer Goldberg's commitment to enhancing that relationship, and wanted to remind the public about all the steps that are already in place by virtue mostly of what the legislature mandated. And we've already met with Treasurer Goldberg, and we will continue to work with her on that critical policy objective.
Mr. Chairman, can I make an
Yeah,
additional point?
please.
It's the same point, but 100% of the Category 2 revenue or tax revenue goes to local aid as well. And that's one that we will see next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Next year.
I totally misspoke, right?
No, well, you spoke totally
About
fine
the casinos.
about everything else, the casinos.
Right.
But in the case of the Category 2, which is the one that begins
Yeah, it's
as
almost
soon as as this year,
right.
there will be 100% of that 40% tax goes to local aid.
Right. Excuse me, I made a major mistake. Thank you for correcting me and not saying I made a mistake. The casino revenues, 20% of the casino revenues will go to local aid. 100% of the slots parlor revenues will go to local aid. That's another $45 million a year. So there is 100, given the estimates that are on the table, and they're just estimates, for the three licensees that we have today, there is $100 million a year that is dedicated to local aid. That's 10% of the present total. So if there's a 10% drop in in lottery proceeds, that would be offset dollar for dollar by casino and slot parlor revenues. Excuse me, $100 million. There's never been a drop in history across the country. There's never been a drop in lottery revenues that's been anywhere near that much. We don't know, again, for the reasons that I said, exactly what will happen in this jurisdiction because we have so much lottery revenues. But the legislature, thank you for reminding me, made a really huge commitment to protecting local aid to the tune of something like $100 million a year. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, we were at item number 4, the Ombudsman. Ombudsman Ziemba.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. We're joined here by Robert DeSalvio, President of WIN Mass LLC, and Jackie Crum, Senior Vice President of WIN and General Counsel, to provide an update regarding the redesign of the WIN facility. As you're aware, during the deliberations of the Region A license, the Commission expressed concerns regarding the design of the facility. As a result, as part of the conditions placed on the WIN license, the Commission strongly urged WIN to reconsider the exterior design of the buildings and present a revised design to the Commission. Also, as part of the conditions to the license, the Commission required WIN to continue its design-related work so that WIN would be ready to commence work on the project as soon as practicable after the effective date of the license. Mr. DeSalvio and Ms. Crum are here today to show some new renderings of the facility and to give the Commission an update of its progress in meeting these conditions.
Thank you, John, and good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. DeSalvio.
I'm joined, as you know, by Jackie Crum. Very happy to be here today. Thank you for the time to present our new designs. Before we actually show them to you, I would like to take a minute to talk about the process. And the process began, of course, back in the deliberation period and the discussion of the license condition. And so the Commission knows we obviously took that that condition very seriously. And Mr. Nguyen, who leads the charge, as you know, in design for the company, is very ably joined by two people that he's been working with for almost 40 years in the business, and I want to acknowledge them. One is Roger Thomas, who is the Executive Vice President of Design for Wind Design Development, and DeRuyter Butler, who is the Executive Vice President of Architecture for Wind Design Development. And the three gentlemen have worked extremely hard in putting together this presentation for today and showing our new renderings. I think we could go ahead and put the first slide up. This is a new nighttime rendering of the property. You will notice right away the graceful curved bronze-colored glass tower with the cream-colored bands. It's very representative of the type of tower that we've done in Las Vegas. When you think about our Vegas property now approaching almost its 10-year anniversary and has been viewed by millions of people from not only domestically but internationally for the last 10 years to incredible accolades when you think about how many awards the property has won. And so the style of the tower is something that we really like, and it's a way to combine a signature Wynn look with a very local harbor walk and waterfront that's representative of the Mystic River and here in New England. So we think it really represents a great opportunity to combine our signature look with this incredible waterfront that we will be delivering. You'll notice the tower is about the same height as the previous tower, but due to its curved nature, the tower got wider, which gave us the ability to add more rooms. So the current configuration would show 629 rooms, and that gives us the ability at the curved top, we have a couple luxury duplex suites, and actually the entire, from what you're looking at, the left side of the building comprises what's called the Wynn Tower Suites concept. And those suites will have an incredible view of the Mystic River and the very dramatic Boston skyline. If you'll notice, the waterfront is now in its newest configuration. We have moved the convention and meeting space through some thoughtful discussion, is now at the end of the retail esplanade, so we'll be able to take advantage of the green space out in front of the water and combine it for events that may be open to the public for indoor, outdoor, and so the use of the meeting facilities worked very well at the end of the retail esplanade. This also gave us a chance for Mr. Nguyen and the team to look at the arrival sequence. We've got a beautiful atrium garden as you come in off the front door, which is currently in the design process. It'll be highlighted by tremendous floral work, by impressive artwork and sculptures. Gave us an opportunity to create another level right above the lobby level, and that serves as an area for food and beverage with a glass front looking out over into the harbor area. So the new arrival sequence actually worked very well along with the new tower. You'll notice I want to also bring up the daytime rendering. So there's the shot during the day. And it really, we think, complements the landscape very well. And it represents a lot of work. As John mentioned earlier, we have continued this design work both inside and outside of the property from the day of the license award, so we could stay on our schedule. And we are, in fact, on our schedule. And so with that, I want to open it up for the commission if there's any questions about the design.
Commissioners?
Well, let me begin. I'm grateful that our request to rethink the design that we had before has been taken so seriously and has produced a radically different approach to this process. These are two renderings, and obviously there are many more details underlying them and behind them. Mm-hmm. What is the prognosis and the timetable for seeing the rest of the material that comes
So-
behind them, the floor
so-
plans and the other elevations and the like.
We've been, as I mentioned, in the serious design work for the interiors of the building. Matter of fact, I'll be in Las Vegas next week doing design reviews with each of the different departments and looking at the layouts, which will ultimately lead to that final floor plan that will be presented to the commission at a later date. Along with the exteriors, the design team is currently working on new renditions for the interior. One of the things we like to do is look at the spaces in their proper view. So even to the point of doing possibly a model of the front arrival sequence and the lobby area that Mr. Nguyen has talked about. So we'll be finishing that up, making sure the perspectives are correct, doing new interior renderings, finalizing the floor plans, and those will be available in the not-too-distant future.
And with those revisions, will any updates necessary for other things, such as parking spaces, square footage, overall footprint, will all of those be
Yes,
presented
those
as
actually
well?
will be covered in our SFEIR filing that we will be doing shortly as well. So that will recount any program changes from the original program.
But the footprint of the building will remain the same.
Same,
The footprint of the building remains the same?
yes.
Thank you.
Same with the massing. I mean, that affects a little bit you mentioned briefly the height, but some of the permitting depends on the actual massing from the river. Does that change significantly?
No, that's actually, we looked at the tower in relationship to all of the requirements, whether it was FAA, wind, shadow, that's all been covered and will be addressed in the SFEIR. And it looks like it fits very well with all the environmental regulations.
Do the additional rooms have any substantial impact on the job count? You're adding hotel space.
It will add, it's about 100, a little over 100 room impact, so that will add some housekeepers as well, some room supervisors. But for the most part, I think it's going to be mainly in the housekeeping and the supervisory area. But yes, it would.
That's all to the good.
You mentioned meeting space. Did you have meeting space before? And
Yes,
it has
we did.
been reconfigured?
Just no, we just moved it to a different area of the building.
Yeah.
To take advantage of, the folks in Las Vegas helped us think through that and realizing that this wonderful outdoor space exists in the green space area, and there may be many groups that want to use that for functions. We can tent it, we can use it for outdoor catering, and by having the space all contiguous, we think it'll get even more use.
Right. So what happened to the nightclub that was in that place?
We actually removed that from the plan, and that was one of the changes that we made. We felt that having the meeting space out in that front area, we thought would be used much more often than the nightclub space. So we actually removed that from the program.
Mr. DeSalvio, has the parking changed at all with the new design?
Yes, it has. We're going to be at 3,400 spaces in the new count. It is a reduction from where
Which
we were
is,
previously. It was
down
30,
from
it was
37.
37.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
So you've added rooms but reduced parking.
Right. We going back and looking at the parking analysis, and actually many of the comment letters we got when we did the FEIR actually were recommending that we take a look at the count to encourage more mass transit use. We feel we have adequate spaces, the 3,400, when we redid the traffic counts in relationship to the change in the nightclub space coming out of the program. It very adequately covers what we need, and we felt it was very responsive to some of the comments that we received.
Since I was not a part of this decision, I have a question for the commissioners. Does the change in room numbers, is there a procedural step that we need to take to approve that? Can that happen?
Well, there's a number, our regulations deal with evolutions in the design and footprint and other aspects of the building. We have a set of regulations that deals with all of that. That's part of what the Penn National reporting requirements are designed to help us flag and focus on, and we'll have an opportunity to deal with all. Pardon me?
Penn National Recording?
Yes, I mean, we're going to have later today.
The same point, okay, okay.
But that's what all that's in aid of.
Right.
And we take a look at evolutions in the design of the building and changes of the building. There was a significant change in their building from the placement of the nightclub, if you recall, to and the interior from the exterior, to change in the programming of that initial entry space. And those are the kinds of things that we need to take a hard look at and think about and work on as the process goes forward. But the regulations anticipate that there will be evolutionary changes in these buildings and the design of the buildings. That always happens. None of these things comes fresh, fully panoplied when they're presented, and so that's the process that will follow when we deal with this and as we
Yes.
get more detail.
We will, yes, be following your normal process.
Right.
Right. I just want to make it clear for the record that just because Wynn wants to add 100 rooms doesn't mean Wynn gets to add 100 rooms. There is a process by which we determine whether changes are material enough to require commission approval, and that would be one of those that would be considered by us.
Right.
Right, thank you. You know, again, I wasn't a part of it, so I can just say I think it looks great. I mean, it's, you know, it's certainly,
Thank you.
personally, it's just one person speaking. It's a vast improvement over the design before. And, you know, this is going to be incredibly visible from a lot of places. I was over in Assembly Square on the weekend and coming down 93, and you can, you know, hopefully it will be more visible than the windmill that's nearby. And having something that is striking, you can just think what happened to Boston when we put up the Charlestown Bridge, the Zakim Bridge. All of a sudden, that became iconic to the city of Boston. All of a sudden, that bridge became probably the single most photographed element in promotion of the city of Boston. And to some extent, this will have that same kind of an impact. So having it be something that we can be excited about and be proud of, you know, is important. And just one person speaking, I think it's really, it's real progress. It's great.
Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else?
No, likewise, I think it's very iconic, as you mentioned, and very much in line with the signature design that Mr. Wynn and his team has. And I look forward to some of the other details that Commissioner McHugh was talking about in terms of the program and the renderings or internal floor plans, et cetera.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is a review of the Penn National Quarterly Report. I'll defer to Executive Director Day to take us from here.
Mr. Chairman, we've seen this team before. So
Yes, we have.
Jack Rowan and Lance George and Jennifer Pink. So I will just refer to Lance to go ahead with the report.
And I'll quickly defer to Jack to give you guys, get started on an update.
That was quick.
And I get paid the big bucks, so I'll defer to Jennifer.
I'd just like to start off with, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you
morning.
again for
Good
having
morning.
us here. We've been working closely with Penn to monitor their performance and adherence to the commitments and coordination with the Gaming Commission staff. And as we get into the final leg, if you will, of this journey to get the slot parlor open, I want to let you know that we are planning and beginning to map out the very detailed list that is integrated and coordinated with Executive Director Day and his staff's obligations and commitments and requirements to get the slot parlor open with Penn, both the design and construction and operation. So that is really what we will start to, we have started to look at it, but we're going to start to develop a lot of very detailed checklists, if you will, with due dates and responsibilities so that nothing falls through the cracks, or should something become on the critical path, attention is focused on it, and no one party can be said to blame the other. We can't open today. So that's really where our focus is now, and as well as honoring the commitments that the that are in the host and surrounding community agreements that pertain to opening, because there are some of those, and those are really critical. And that is my take on the quarterly report. The next two will be updating you in a more detailed fashion on some of those.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. As always, thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's great to come and tell you about our progress over the last quarter. The fourth quarter and January to date gave us pretty good weather and therefore good progress. We, not surprisingly, have had significant activity on the construction side, not just on the site, getting it ready for winter, but the garage and office spaces have taken real, defined shape. The casino building progresses, and work on the racing building continues. On the owner's side, we've started our, fit out and procurement activity for owner equipment, surveillance equipment, audiovisual equipment, gaming and operations equipment have all started taking shape. Contracts, purchase orders, vendor licensing, it's all moving along. On the racing side, we relocated our simulcast operations from one side of the second floor of the racing building to the recently completed multi-purpose room on the same level of the racing building. And now we can work on redoing the simulcast for its permanent home. So on all three areas of the site, we are moving along. As I've done with you in the past, I thought we'd point out a couple of highlights in the report. And if there's anything along the way from questions, please stop me. And I don't know if we can track along here, but if you could go to Appendix 2. Appendix 2 is a critical one for us now because it talks about schedule. In this appendix, we state that we are still on track for a June 2015 opening. We are in constant communication and coordination with Pink, with Rick Day, and Commission staff on a whole host of issues related to schedule. It's a process that has really picked up in the past quarter and will continue, certainly until we get the casino opened. A couple of key areas we're working on right now are vendor licensing, internal controls, and the surveillance plan, to make sure our process for submitting information is clear and the Commission's timetable for approving is also clear. And those are critical areas to us. Appendix 4, please.
Jack?
Yeah.
Before you, are you moving from schedule?
I was, yes.
Quick question. I remember the schedule had two elements. All of the internal activities was a potential critical path, but also external, the curb cuts, et cetera, the access road.
Yeah, I was going to touch on permits a bit later, but we'll jump to that now.
Okay.
If you're referring to the MassDOT issue,
Yes.
we've had plenty of occasion to talk about. We have really made progress in the past quarter, both us and MassDOT. We have submitted 100% plans. We have received numerous rounds of comments from MassDOT. We've updated our plans for all of those comments, which include pretty much the full scope that we proposed and the town wanted, the curb cut, several traffic signals. All of the important features have now been put into the final plans. At this point, we've got all the MassDOT comments. We've responded to them. The plans are complete, and we actually have a pre-construction meeting with MassDOT scheduled for tomorrow.
Okay.
So it has really taken shape. I would point out two things to you. One, on a positive note, we have received extraordinary cooperation from MassDOT at the highest level. They've really taken a personal interest in this project, and when we complain to them, they help us move things along. At this point, though, we still do not have a permit. It would be wonderful to hold that permit in our hand and understand exactly what it says and exactly what our work conditions and other important elements will be. But for the time being, it's winter, and it's more important now that we're talking with them and coordinating with them. They do tell us the permit will be imminent.
Okay.
So I hope that answers your question.
Going back to the other, the three elements that you said were your primary focus of concentration now, are they progressing satisfactorily insofar as the Commission's support is concerned?
I think I'll let you touch on that one, Lance.
Sure. Talk first about internal controls. Certainly a gating item for us.
Right.
We will begin drafting those ICs based on regs that are completed.
Right.
There is a surveillance plan that is due, that is in my inbox. I think that came in last night, so our hope is to provide that by the end of this week.
Right.
In addition to that, we are looking to provide the beginning of a responsible gaming plan. We'll have that submitted, at least a cursory look at it within the next 2 weeks. So I think Jack mentioned it. You know, we're on the phone with Bruce or Mark or Rick on a daily basis to work through these issues. A lot of questions on our end and on the other side as well to make sure we're doing things exactly right. That would also relate to vendor licensing. We're ready to place our slot order next week. Want to make sure that we are following procedure. Good communication yesterday with Bill Curtis and David Acosta. Touch base with Rick this morning. So, you know, long-winded answer of saying certainly a great spirit of cooperation and that everything is moving forward. And I think everyone's on the same page with the hot buttons right now.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
One other item on Article 2 on the schedule, the other requirements, the regional kind of tourism strategy, which you need to provide a certain number of days out before you're opening. Just, you know, not to be nitpicky, but it's down there and shows a start last year. So just update the date, but we know you need to share that with us and certainly run it through the local regional tourism council at the appropriate point.
Fair enough. We'll get that process started as well, understanding the timing, and make sure again that we loop in everybody that needs to be looped in.
All right.
One of the surrounding community agreement requirements calls for a number of baseline studies before we open. And while the report doesn't specifically touch on that, I can tell you that we have moved into that phase of the work, and we're currently looking to release the traffic studies that are required by pretty much all of the surrounding community agreements. So that is the longest of those baseline studies, and we're currently going through proposals and looking to engage someone soon. Let's see, Appendix 4, we have provided, and as work has progressed, we have a number of pictures to show you this time about progress. A couple of things to touch on. The exterior of the building is enclosed, and now temperature, the casino building that is, and temperature controlled. And we have about 300 very happy construction workers to be working inside this winter. A lot of the pictures showed you aerial or roof shots about the photovoltaic panels that are part of our energy program and LEED program. So those have taken shape. The exterior finishes of the casino and the garage are now really taking shape and really starting to look like the pictures that we've shown you over time. And on the casino interior, a significant effort in framing and drywall. So much like the outside, the interior spaces are now taking shape and are starting to more and more look like the picture. Appendix 5. While she's getting to Appendix 5 is where we normally provide you with a table of financial information and a statement about our ability to complete the project from a financial standpoint. In this particular quarterly report, we have not provided that table because it contains capital information and other information that's part of our quarterly and annual release to the public. We haven't done that yet, therefore we were not able to provide the normal table of financial information. Our earnings release for the year is scheduled for January 29th, and concurrent with that release, we'll provide you with the normal table. What I can tell you today, though, is that Penn National, or what we give you on the 29th, will show you that Penn National has sufficient financial resources to complete the project. So that we can tell you
That's
today.
reassuring.
Appendix 8. Appendix 8 is the construction workforce update. We are now upwards of 150,000 work hours into the job. And through December 31st, we are showing 15% of the on-site construction workforce is minority versus a goal of 16, 4% women versus a goal of 7, and 10% veteran versus a goal of 3. So we're over halfway through the job. We're holding our own. It is a pretty tough environment, though. There's a lot of construction activity in the region. Resources are at a premium. Turner has done, and the various subs have done a good job of making sure we can obtain and retain as many minority women and vets as possible. So we're close to our target, and we're holding our own.
Jack, you talked about the subcontractors who are in non-compliance. Continue to hold corrective action meetings, and the numbers, that you have in this chart really jump out. You've got some big providers who are doing, some big subcontractors who are doing well. I look at NB Kenny, for example, on both scores, pretty well. But you've got some other big ones that you just run 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 on women. TJ McCarty, Island International, Cox. So what is the process with these folks?
I think, Commissioner, it reflects those trades. The diversity in the bodies simply aren't there. Nobody gets a pass on this job. We do not say to some of those that you've mentioned, for example, that it's okay. It's not okay. Each one of those subs has to regularly interact with Turner and either get us on target or explain why they can't. Constant communication with business agents in terms of who's in the hall, who's coming up, where we can obtain these resources from other jobs. It's a full effort. Some trades just aren't well represented. Some are.
Ms. Pink, you've been a woman on a construction site. Are they doing what needs to be done? I mean, this has not been our experience with Penn National, so I say this not about Penn National, but the standard answer is you can't find anybody. That's everybody's answer about everything. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. What's your...
Well, I'd say they're doing better than I've seen historically. I think the unions obviously have a big role to play in this, and in Plainville, the labor pool to draw on is somewhat more sparse, even though I know workers are coming down from Boston. I think the competition for labor right now of any two-legged person is getting harder and harder to fulfill with the work going on. So I would give them a better than passing grade. But they're challenges that are pretty extraordinary. And I know you've met with the women, the policy group and trade women, right? You've talked to them.
Yes.
And I also would say that I think as we get to potentially more finished trades, it may go back up. There are some trades where women are just historically grossly underrepresented rather than just badly underrepresented.
Right. We're going to be moving into the phase of the work where it's dominated by electric and by the finished trades.
Right.
And by the when?
Electric and the finished trades.
Finish, right.
And I think electric will present us challenges just by the sheer numbers that we need on the job. But the finished trades are an opportunity. But back to your question, and I want to repeat it, this is a serious endeavor for us. We don't take it lightly. Nobody gets a pass, and we do work hard at it.
Okay, well, that's great, and I think that's consistent with what we've heard from our Director of Supplier and Workforce Diversity. But in the big picture, what the idea here is to create enough demand that there is pressure on supply, and if the demand side is pushing properly, then one of these days it's got to start pulling people through the supply. Now, your project is a short one; you're going to be out of the ground pretty soon. But in terms of preparing the way for the big projects coming down the line, never mind all the other projects around Massachusetts, hopefully at the training end and at the union end, the word is growing that the demand pressure is real. It doesn't do us any good if all we do is grab the 11 women that are around and rotate them around. There needs to be a whole bunch more.
Remind me, what is the total projected construction hours? You mentioned you're at 150,000 or thereabouts?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll get you that. I mean, we're about 55% of the way down the work now, so say upwards of 300,000 hours, might be a little more than that.
Okay.
Okay. Appendix 9, please. This is the...
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, I'm still in Appendix 8, excuse me, Jack. You had the chart that talks about cumulative individuals on site. I'm just curious, what does that represent? Is that people who have been on site once or more? Or
Once or more.
Once or more, okay.
Obviously, many of them have been there hundreds of times.
Right.
But that is what that number means. I think it's
Okay.
760-something, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That is the number of people who have shown up to work one or more days on the job.
Okay.
Appendix 9 is the normal information we've supplied and talked many times about with respect to construction contracting. At this point, we are substantially bid out. There are very limited areas of the work that are still not bid. We have issued over $82 million in direct construction contracts, and our numbers remain, very favorable to our plan. Minorities are at 12% of the work, minority business enterprises, sorry, 12% of the direct contract work versus a goal of 4, WBEs at 13 versus a goal of 7, and VBEs at 10 versus a goal of 3%. Overall, we've had almost $28 million in MW and VBE contracts, or about 34% of the overall direct construction work that's been awarded. And to date, we've made $10 million in payments. So we've had occasion to present this subject to you in the past, and we remain pleased with where we're at and the results Turner's achieved.
Yeah, I think those results are great.
I agree.
Yeah.
And they are, at this point, not likely to change. There's very little work left to bid out.
That's really great.
Yeah. And we're pleased with it, to say the least.
Those numbers do look good. I have a quick question. Help me understand layman's terms. Commitments are out $27 million. Actual payments as of December 31st is about a third of that.
Right.
Help me understand kind of the payment schedule for the rest of the work that you've successfully bid out to the MBEs, WBEs, and VBEs.
It will occur as they put the work in place. The commitments are awards. The payments come when they bill us for work performed. So at this point, the work that's been awarded to MW and VBEs is about a third complete. And the rest will, be paid out as it's done over the next few months.
Remind me again what the payment terms are from the time you get an invoice to when a check goes out the door.
In summary, it's 30 days. Turner usually cuts off their business cycle towards the end of a month. They give us a pay application in the beginning of the month, and we pay that towards the end of the month.
Okay.
And we've been running pretty consistent on that.
Okay.
Appendix 10, please. Well, actually, we can skip over Appendix 10. That was to touch base on the MassDOT permit, and we've covered that already. Appendix 12, please. This is the last one I wanted to touch on, and that's this is the first information we've provided for our owner equipment buyout. In the quarter, we have issued contracts and purchase orders for just under $6 million for various pieces of the equipment program, the surveillance equipment, audio-visual equipment, and a host of other operational-related items. And on that $6 million that we've issued to date, 6% of that, which is right on the goal, has gone to MBE, 5% versus a goal of 12 for women, business enterprises, and 23% was to VBEs versus a goal of 3. So we're early in the operations equipment process, but at least as we encountered with construction, we've gotten off to a good start.
What is the order of magnitude of the total?
It's probably in the neighborhood of 30 million for everything. Those were the highlights. Happy to entertain any other questions you might have.
Anybody?
No, I think that's overall continues to be a terrific report, both as to the progress and as the progress on the ground, the physical progress, and as to the approach to the minority and veterans and female participation in this. I think.
Thank you.
I agree, and on the numbers, you know, it shows that you're taking this seriously, but we hear that anecdotally too, and we appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you get that feedback.
Yeah.
It's important to us. And a final comment to echo on what Jennifer says. While 330 construction workers are working hard every day, myself and Lance, Pink, and the commission and their staff, now we're into an important communications phase about submissions, about approvals, and that carries over to the town of Plainville, to MassDOT, and as examples of key groups that, you know, whose approvals we have to get before we wrap all of this up. So over the next couple months, while construction progresses, we have our approvals and submissions work to do as well.
Yeah, there's a big crunch time coming for all of us, including our end, and as I say every time you come, you know, you will let us know, you know, but we're under as much pressure as you are to try to make sure we're getting our part of the deal done here. So I'm sure we'll make it. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Jack.
You too.
Thanks, Jack.
Do you want to do an early lunch? We had, okay, but we had scheduled lunch now.
No,
It's
it's
11:30.
12:30 we scheduled lunch.
Yeah, but that was after the ombudsman report. So we're running ahead of schedule. So shall we go ahead and
Yeah.
into the administration? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll take, yeah, I'm sorry, okay. One thing, yes, good idea, and we'll adjust the time for lunch. We'll go ahead and do some other things. Has there been, it's now 11:30, which means we've been here for an hour. Is there anybody else here to testify? I'm getting a no. So we will close the formal hearing on the regulations enumerated on the agenda. We always accept comments later on, and of course, we can always revisit these issues. We got a tremendous number of written comments, a lot about the ATM issue, a lot about the credit issues, all of which are being incorporated into our review and analysis of the final draft of these regs. But anybody else who's got remaining thoughts, anybody out there, we welcome them. And as I say, any of these issues can be reopened if there is important new information. Let's take a brief recess, and we will come back with item number 5, administration.